Hi, I'm Kate Bailey. I'm a coach, an author, and a sober mama. And this is Love Sober, the podcast for the sober and sober curious.
You know who made it.
Hi, and welcome back. This week, I'm delighted to be welcoming Emma Barron. Hi, Emma.
Hello.
Hello. So, really happy to speak to Emma today. Emma does some really exciting things. She's a DJ. She's co-founder of the House of Happiness, which is sober partying, right? Is that what it's about?
It is, yes. It's a new sober clubbing event based in London that we are launching in October.
Almost like that, I always think of it as like transcendence sort of states. How do we access joy and transcendence? Because some of it, like, we want to do that, right? Like some of us want to do that. So we will dive into that. She is also badass TV producer. Am I allowed to say what you're working on at the moment?
I'm not sure actually. I don't know. I don't know what the rules are, but I do various things. I'm doing Race Across the World at the moment. I also work on SAS Who Dares Wins a lot every year. And just lots of Channel 4 programs, sometimes BBC. So random actually. Yeah.
And that's the one that caught my interest that you were telling. It piqued my interest, the SOS one, the SAS rather. That sort of kind of hardcore situation, which obviously is probably saying something about me and the menopause at the moment, quite frankly, that I want to do something quite extreme. She's also been sober since 2017. So welcome to you, Emma. And we always start with a check-in. How are you doing?
I'm good actually. Yes, just working from home today, so feeling chilled. Feeling I've been to the gym as well, which is vital these days. So my endorphins are flowing, feeling kind of upbeat.
You've sort of virtuous possibly as well.
Virtuous today, not so yesterday. So. Depends what day you find me on. Yes.
Yeah. Well, I'm actually recording here. This is the first time I've ever recorded a podcast here. I'm actually at the yoga studio where I come, and they've got a little co-working space now at B Yoga. I'm not even sure if I'm allowed to say that. Might have to edit that out. And so I've done a hot yoga class this morning, and then I've sat with some nice herbal teas, and I'm recording the pod from here. So I'm feeling a little bit virtuous, and the endorphins are sort of happily flowing here too. So nice. That's cracking. Like, excellent. Well done us. So we always begin really with the sort of story, stories being, I don't know, the power, I think, so much in sobriety is hearing other people's stories and seeing ourselves in other people's stories. And that sort of element of hope, I think, hope and connection. And so I'm wondering if you could tell us a bit about your journey to becoming alcohol free.
Yeah, I mean, so I think it's, I haven't really, like my story of alcohol was never like, there was never like a rock bottom that forced me to stop drinking. It was, for me, it was, I started drinking at a really early age. When I was a teenager, I was really interested in alcohol. I was really interested in kind of, the feeling it gave me. And I think now on reflection, possibly the escape of certain things. And I think, I think it was just something that I just began to depend on, being a young gay woman in a small village. I soon moved to Manchester and found clubbing and found alcohol and drugs quite early on. Started getting into the rave scene actually before I moved to Manchester, and was very much and thought it was amazing. I was a musician when I was younger. I was a drummer, I was a pianist, and rave music was like this brilliant combination of both, and then the drugs on top, and it was all very good fun. And I did lead a really hedonistic life. I moved to Manchester, went to uni, did a lot of clubbing, just grew up on the clubbing scene in Manchester, really, which was amazing in the 90s. Went to Hacienda, ended up working as a club promoter as well, which was really good fun, only for a short period of time before I ended up losing that job due to getting really drunk and doing something stupid one night. So, you know, alcohol, you know, over the years, never was my friend. Always felt that it was something that I, you know, needed for all occasions, happy, sad, you know, whatever. It was always something. And so it was just something I think I just thought I had to live with, really. You know, when I look back on it now, it's like, well, that's just what I need. You know, I just need alcohol pretty much every night. And it was, you know, very much, you know, functioning and managing, and came to London, did a degree. Again, you know, my finals were hard. I look back now, it's like, yeah, because I was hungover a lot of the time, so no wonder they were so hard. But I think so, you know, I think then got a job in telly, which is, you know, alcohol is celebrated, you know, as it is on the gay scene, and you know, it's like being trashed was just like, oh, that's just what you do. So, you know, the gay scene very much kind of instills that into you when you're younger, but also then TV, it's very much accepted as well. So everybody just gets, you know, you're introduced to all these parties where there's free booze, and you just, you know, so everybody does it, and it was just very normalized, I think, for me, really.
It's part of the fabric, isn't it? Somehow it's that, you know, part of what's happened the last few years, I think, is that we've started to question that, and there's been that sober curious movement. And for people who, you know, remember the 90s, it was not like that. It was part of the fabric. It's just, it was like breathing, especially in the media. You know, I've got a media background too, and it's like, well, we used to go walk into the Daily Express where I used to work, in the building, and the cafe, the restaurant was on the left, and it had a bar, and the bar was open. I seem to remember from like really early. So
yeah. There's even edit suites now that have got like beer on tap, which it's just this normalized, it's just very, very so yes, so I guess for me the thing is, it was what actually turned it for me was becoming a parent, I think. And you know, my partner, who is female, did, you know, very quickly went into the role of responsible. She kind of cut right back on the drinking and became the sensible one, which again just gave me free rein to not be, and to continue the drinking and continue the, you know, the hedonistic lifestyle. And I think just, you know, it took about, I think my daughter was about 5, my son was about 4, and it was just many occasions, and there were low points, don't get me wrong, there wasn't a rock bottom, but there were quite low moments. And I think eventually I just thought, what am I doing? You know, like, I've got these children, I've wanted children all my life, I've wanted this, I've got this house, I've got this partner, we've got a great setup, and I'm just ruining my life with hangovers. I'm just ruining my, you know, every day is a struggle. Every day was just harder than it needed to be. But in my head, it was, well, that's just the way it had to be, because alcohol was ingrained into my life. I needed it. I tried to do a few dry, you know, tried to stop for a week, tried to stop for 2 weeks. It would never last that long. And it would always be, you know, and actually for me it was only when my partner, and when I look back now, obviously the closest she came to giving me a hint, because she would never have said stop, because that was who I was. And, you know, as I say, I was very much functioning most of the time. It wasn't like, you know, it wasn't causing massive problems in our life, really, apart from, you know, embarrassment to me probably most of the time. But yeah, she gave me this Naked Mind to have a read of. And I remember the only reason that I read it was because it said how to cut down on your drinking. It wasn't about just stop drinking, because my mindset at that time would have been like, no, I'm not interested in stopping drinking. That's not happening. And I also ended up seeing a counsellor as well, about a year before I stopped drinking, just for other reasons, and just because I just thought you know. And actually, it was a combination of being curious, reading this Naked Mind, seeing this counsellor, and just experiencing, you know, I think once I read this Naked Mind, it was very weird. I couldn't go back. Like, in my head, I was like, I've just learned too much about alcohol to actually continue what I'm doing without a conscience. It was really weird, actually. It kind of ruined my relationship with alcohol in the best way possible. And I, you know, it was, and then I read William Porter's book, Alcohol Explained, and that was the nail in the coffin. I was like, oh my God, this is, what the hell am I doing? You know, there were too many facts that I'd just learned, and it was so relatable. It was like, oh my God, yeah, this is what happens. This is how addiction happens, and this is what dependency is. And so actually, Annie Grace was doing this alcohol experiment for September 2017, which was you signed up to her experiment. It was 30 a whole month. And you had to just report in every day as to how you felt, but she also connected you with other people on this kind of platform. So I was like talking to other people every day, and I'd planned to do it, and I'd actually went to Ibiza the weekend before it with some of my friends who liked to party, put it that way, and we had properly, I mean, it was, if I was ever going to do a farewell to it, that was the place to do it. And it was, so it probably made it a lot harder in that first week, because I was on a bit of I was on a real kind of low. Luckily, I'd got my counselor around at that time as well, which was helping me. But yeah, I literally thought I was only going to do 30 days. I just thought, you know, I'll do 30 days. Well, I think in the back of my head, I was thinking, if you could do 6 months, this would be amazing. But I could not tell myself that at the time. And it really was a day by day. Don't even think too far ahead. And actually working on the program SAS at the time actually helped, because that's what their mindset is when they're doing challenges and stuff, is just don't think about the bigger picture, just think about those small moments, and just get to those small, and don't even theorize, just don't even worry about what's ahead. Just go, just do this, just give yourself a little target. And actually, that is the best advice I would give anybody who's starting to try, because for me, it's sobriety. Like, I would never have, literally last week, it was my 5-year soberversary, which was like, oh my God, 5 years. Like I felt emotional, because I was like, I would never have thought this is where I would be, because, you know, for me at the beginning, it would have been a 6-month test. Then I'd sort it out in my head. I'd realign my relationship with alcohol, and I'd go back to drinking sensibly. But what I know is that for me personally is never going to happen, because I don't do things sensibly. You know, it's you know, if it's like with sugar, it's like, that's my new challenge, but that's a totally other story. But you know, I would say sobriety, for me, this is how I visualize it. It's like a snowball that just gets bigger and bigger, and the strength that you get from every single day, every single week, every single month, and now it's becoming every single year, is that what I now know is that I have won this battle. My neural pathways are completely rechanged to the point that drinking alcohol would only ever be a choice for me now in the future, and I'm pretty sure I'll never choose to do it. But if I did, it wouldn't be because I was weak to it. It would be because I had made a clear choice that that's what I wanted to do. But my life without it's just too good. It's too good without it, you know. And that's what I realized after 6 months, when I started to so Annie Grace, at the end of the 30 days, she did a podcast with Club Soda. Laura and Justine, and I was like, who are these people? Like, they're English as well, they're from the UK, and I found Club Soda on Facebook, and I was just like, this is amazing. And I just couldn't believe it, because there were all these people on there, and there were all these stories, and that is definitely, I honestly don't think I would have done it without that support. I think if I hadn't had Club Soda to just completely, you know, obsess with every day, if I needed to, I read every morning, every night. I met friends. I ended up coming to some of the socials, got some sober buddies, and I just think without that support, it probably, I don't think personally I would have done it. I mean, maybe I would, but
and there is that I mean, everything you're saying now, like looking back on it, it's like there's all of that kind of psychology and neuroscience of habit change, and the building blocks you are actually getting in place. So that kind of connection, community, making it rewarding through those social connections. It was like those, micro, like focusing right down, being really specific, rather than, like you said, I can see so many people and myself included, who struggled so much by widening the aperture too far.
Yeah,
because we'll undo those daily. It has to just be, that's why they say, I think, one day at a time, not because it's so horrendous you can only cope with one day. It's just that's how habits are built.
yes, yeah,
You know, that's how we do it.
yeah. That's how you make your new normal.
Yeah.
And you know, and at the time when you're there, it's like, well, there can't be another normal. This is my normal. But
Yeah.
it's like there can. You
Yeah.
just have to work at it, and you have to, you don't think about the bigger picture.
Yeah.
You have to, it's a bit like, I mean, this is a bit glum and you might edit this out, but it's a bit like grief, you know, like my mum died really suddenly 14 years ago, and you know, that what I look back now with clarity on everything, and you know, obviously I was drinking at the time, but that's how I have coped with the death of my mom, is because I have rebuilt a new life without her. And I see it very much like the same, you know.
Same, yeah, because it's change, and it is like the grief curve or the change curve. They call it the same thing, don't they? And those stages of any kind of huge change, which I think
up with a abusive partner, alcohol, I think that was some of the I'm sure you've heard lots of people say that before, but that's how it feels, isn't it? You're just like, do you know what, I thought I needed you and I actually just don't.
Yeah, and it's so interesting, isn't it? Like that emotional relationship that builds, you know, you can look at the brain scans and you can see the neural pathways, but I find that bit of that education piece that you said about Annie Grace very interesting. You know, there's that, if we arm people with proper information, that's very powerful. But the other side of that is that's what's happening. But how we're experiencing it is almost like in terms of a relationship and the stories we tell ourselves about ourselves and our relationship with alcohol. So it's this kind of weird, it feels very personal, it feels emotionally charged, it feels intimate, it feels like a lot of things, and then you go, that's crazy, it's just, we're talking about alcohol, how can I have such an evolved relationship with it?
But you do, and you see, like I see certain people now, and you know, who have not broken up with alcohol, and I see it's in their dialogue, it's in their everyday language. It's like you can't talk about anything without relating it to alcohol, and it's just what it does. It just intertwines, you know. It's that's dependency and addiction, I suppose, isn't it? It's
for sure. And so you found Club Soda, so it's some quit lit and really good information on board. There was some counselling, so you were having some kind of reflective and listening going on. Then Club Soda, so some social connection that was speaking. What other resources and tools sort of helped you in those early days?
Well, do you know what helped me, and this actually relates to obviously you know, my new sub career, was reconnecting. I remember my counselor, she was a brilliant counselor. She's one of those I'm not seeing her anymore, but she is somebody that will just be one of the most important people that I've ever met in my life. And I was seeing her for a number of years, you know, afterwards as well. But she said to me, you know, she said, what were your passions before you started drinking? And it was really interesting because I really clearly knew, and it was, you know, drumming, piano and music, and house music was during, obviously, as well, but music was my passion. And I clearly remember when I was 17 selling my drum kit and making like 400 quid and then spending it on alcohol and what have you. And I remember I used to tell that story like, oh yeah, that's what I did, but actually it's quite a sad story. It's like, that's kind of so symbolic to me, is that I threw away my talents and my passions because I found alcohol, and then that kind of went out the window. And so actually she was like, what did you, and so I went out, I bought a electric drum kit, which actually is now just getting a bit dusty in my son's bedroom, but I did enjoy it for a while. But then what I did was I was like, you know what, I've always wanted to be a DJ. And this is going to make me sound slightly immature, but I suppose everybody has these kind of naive, immature fantasies about winning the lottery. And I always used to say to myself when I was, you know, younger, if I ever win the lottery, I'm gonna I'm going to become a DJ, and I'm going to, like, you know, perform at a club in front of loads of people. And I'm also just going to get fit, going to get like a fitness coach and, you know, lose loads of weight. And actually, the funny thing is that sobriety was that for me. Do you know what I mean? It's like I didn't need to win the lottery, but sobriety has brought both of those things to me, because I've been exercising, lost loads of weight, and now I've, you know, yes, I bought some decks and some mini decks that my friend advised me to, and got some lessons. And this was about a year into my sobriety. And yeah, it was so exciting, and I was like, I love this. Like, I've got all this knowledge of music that I've built up over, you know, years of clubbing, and now I can actually use it properly, because, you know, DJing when I was drinking it just wouldn't have been possible, because for one, I wouldn't have had the confidence, but for two, I just wouldn't have been able to, because I'd have had to do early sets, because I'd have always needed to drink later on and probably, you know, mess it up. But I then saw these sober events advertised, and so I joined their Facebook group, and then I saw that one of the guys who runs it was saying, does anyone want to DJ at this event in Shoreditch? And I was just like, do you know what? I'm just gonna get in touch with him and say yes. And it was I literally threw myself in at the deep end, and it was so important to me, and I practiced and yeah, it was really great that he gave me that opportunity. And then he asked me if I wanted to do this boat party that they were doing with a couple of other sober DJs, including Brandon Block, who I remember very clearly from the 90s, who's amazing. And so literally my second gig, I mean, I did one for my friend's 50th as well, but my second gig, Brandon was literally stood at the side of me watching my set. It was just like the pressure, and, you know, literally I did it, and I rode out the anxiety. And actually, again, it's just sobriety gave me that confidence. I know I wouldn't have been that person that in the drinking days.
And I can hear that. I can hear the excitement, and obviously I can see your face because we're on Zoom with each other, and it's just like the joy, you know. It's like those gifts. I love, you know, that when I stopped drinking, I was so scared. Like you were like saying a bit of this. It's like you have no idea. Like it's part of the fabric, and it's been used for this and this, and that beautiful kind of journey back to the self. It's like it's discovery, but it's like rediscovery of those things that are so beautiful. Like you said, you're like your first loves, right? Your first loves are music, drumming, piano. And I love the fact, I always say that sobriety, I don't know if it is like that now, but I remember when I found Soberistas, because that's how I stopped. I found an program because I couldn't get out of the house. The kids were small. I was really isolated. So it was like, I need something online, and I need something positive, and I need something a bit sparkly, because otherwise I'm not going to want to do it. So my shame was too much. So I was like, it has to look like a magazine, otherwise I'm not doing it. And it's that, I've totally forgotten what I was going to say now. What was I going to say? So it was the sober sphere was much smaller then, but I had a real problem with my you know, my son needed an EHCP a couple of years, about 5 years ago, and so I was speaking to Mandy, and Mandy was like, well, do you know someone? I know someone who works in kind of education. He's the head of education. I mean, it's much more than head of education in the whole of Cardiff, was how she described it. So I was like, right, okay. And I know her wife because she's sober, so it was like, right, okay. And it was like, I felt like the sober sphere was a bit like the Freemasons, like it could open doors. And when you were saying about, like, what's his name next to you, Brandon, it's like somehow, and it's amazing, isn't it, that
it gives you a connection. It gives you, like, I just instantly have respect for people when I find out that they're sober, because I know what they've been through to get there. Do you know what I mean? And it's like,
I've never met a wrong-un. I've never met a wrong-un who is sober.
No, because you have to own your shit.
You do have to own your shit, and you have to become a bit of a right-un.
Yeah,
even if you have been a wrong un.
Yeah, exactly. You've got no option. You have to answer to yourself when you're sober, don't you?
Yeah.
Whereas when you're drinking, it's like, oh no, because I'm just still a kid who just like.
Oh, I don't know. Yeah, I was a bit pissed. I can't remember it.
Yeah.
Like, well, that won't wash, will it?
Doesn't wash anymore.
No, exactly. Yeah. Wow. So that is fantastic. And so you've set up the House of
Happiness. Yeah. So basically, sober clubbing. So this was another part of my journey, really. This is what got me. In fact, this is what I did that prompted me to buy the decks and get back into DJing, because we went to Morning Gloryville, and I went there with a few club soda mates, and it just blew my mind. I was like, oh my God, all these people are sober and they are dancing just with big smiles on their faces, having a really good time, just like they do in clubs when everybody's off their faces, but nobody's got any. It's like it was just it was such a key moment in my sobriety journey, actually, because I was like, this is what I've been looking for. This is what I needed. It's like like
integration, right?
Yeah,
those bits of yourself that needed to feel I can be that and I can be this.
Yeah, exactly. And all of these people are dancing with no, with nothing. There's no alcohol here, there's no drugs. Everybody is just on a high. And actually that was what made me realize that, do you know what, clubbing was really, the majority of clubbing was about the music and the dancing and other people. It wasn't about the drugs and the alcohol. And and I think that when you've had that euphoria moment and that kind of eureka moment, you're just like, oh my God, like this is like another level. So we got really into that, and we went to a couple of events then. Things evolve, don't they? You meet other people. I've met Janie and Neil, who are both sober as well, and they're really into clubbing, and they, like me, grew up going to all the gay clubs in in Vauxhall and in London, and I think we've found that there's some brilliant clubs out there, but they're some of them are quite wellness and quite kind of recovery based. Some of them are kind of meditation and kind of there's a lot of kind of I think what there isn't probably, or certainly what we don't feel there is somewhere that is just a replica of a club. So somewhere where you can buy alcohol-free beer, alcohol-free cocktails, and feel like you're actually having a night out with banging music and lights. And the club that we've chosen that very carefully, because we didn't want daylight, even though we're doing it in the day, because again, I mean, we're basing all this on just what we want, so we're just hoping other people feel the same as us. Like I want to go day clubbing because not only have I got kids, but I also just don't want to be getting tubes home at night with loads of drunk people. I want to be able to walk out of a club at 5, 6, 7 o'clock and go home and
Love
still
it.
have a cup of tea and
it's like being able to have the whole thing, isn't it? It's like having your cake and eating it.
Because exactly, you walk in there at 12 o'clock, it's like walking into a dark blacked out club, lights, music, and you're having exactly the same experience, just without the alcohol, but everything else is the same. We've got some brilliant drinks companies that are sponsoring us, but there's one that is like Aperol Spritz, but obviously alcohol free.
I love that.
Which is amazing. It's like
it's not really the Lidl one, is it? It's not going to be the Lidl.
No, it's called Strike, I think.
It might have been at Club Soda. There was one there that was lush. But that's what I drank all summer. This summer was the Lidl's version.
Okay. Oh, I'll have to look into that one.
It's and they were in little bottles, and you could get the blonde version or the red version, and they were so nice.
Excellent.
Yeah.
Brilliant. Oh, good. I mean, I don't do alcohol free. I don't drink it as a rule at home anymore because I don't need to. But when I'm out, I want a beer. Like when I'm DJing, I want a beer. And you want to replicate what you used to have.
Let's keep the ritual, change the ingredient. The only ingredient you take out is the alcohol, but you want a grown-up drink to
you don't want to feel like you've got to have Diet Coke. And I think some of the other events they don't, and people have different thoughts processes, don't they? And I think certain people think that actually alcohol-free drinks might be triggering, but I've never found that for myself. It's actually helped me to stop drinking. Being able to replicate a good beer while I'm out in the pub, well, that's helped me, because that satiates that appetite, and it's that whole familiarity, but you're still doing something, but you're just not having the alcohol. So so there are different trains of thoughts on that, but this is ours. We've also we've got 3 dancers, go-go dancers, who are amazing. We've got 3, we're doing an all-female lineup, DJ lineup as well. Just for the first one, just because I feel like a lot of female DJs get kind of don't get really recognition, and I think that's been my experience over the last few years as well. Is that I just think obviously it's not going to be every time, but I just think we've got some brilliant talents that we want to kind of showcase. But everything is going to be like walking into what we're hoping to replicate. I don't know how much you know about clubbing, but there's a club in Ibiza called Glitterbox, which is just very, very fun, full of bright. I mean, people don't have to get dressed up either, so it is whatever you're comfortable in. But we want that there will be some glitter, I'm sure.
Amazing.
And lots of color and just lots of fun, and just really upbeat, fun music that people can relate to, that people know as well, tracks that people are vocal house music,
like happy house.
Exactly, because it's mood, we want
the mood. I had a moment at the She Recovers conference in Miami that we went to back in May. And a lot of that was sort of movement based as well. There was She Recovers yoga, but they had a great DJ called Annie Love who did the party for that after. And I had this moment, and so it was silent disco outside, and she was taking requests, and I wanted like Shaka Khan, is one of my old favorites, like Ain't Nobody. Like, just classic. Anyway,
one of my favorites too.
She couldn't find it anyway, so I went to the toilet and people were beckoning me, and they were like, oh. And she'd found it, and it was right at the end of the night, and it was just like it started kicking in, and then it started raining, just soft rain, and I was like there, my hands in the air. I was like, take me to frickin' church. I am there. It was like pinnacle. It's like pinnacle high moment, and that's sort of what we were going to sort of also touch on, this need for transcendence, because it's almost like okay, I'm sober, I'm not allowed to get high, and it's like, but we can
get high
about using our natural tools and endorphins, and music is primal, right?
It's primal. This is what we've been dancing for millennia, it's only
in our
it is us. In drugs and alcohol need to be a part of that. And actually, if you go back to our history, we've always danced. We've always loved music, and we didn't have alcohol and drugs before. So why do we need it now? We have just pinned on this. Oh, you need this, and it's rubbish. It's as you say, that moment. Those moments. So cool.
It was like it was like a whoosh. It's like ventral vagal.
Coming up on your own endorphins.
On my own endorphins with these sober sisters in Miami with gentle rain and Shaka frickin' Khan. It's like, that's it.
That sounds like a good moment. That sounds like a good moment. And that is what it's about.
They sustain us, and they nurture us, and they sustain our sobriety, because they give us joy and connection. And it's like fuel in the tank.
Yeah, totally. And when you have that connection with other sober people, and that's the difference between sober events, because I've done a lot of clubbing at non-sober events recently as well, just because there was some good, and obviously you can do clubbing now because you're not going to suffer for a week afterwards. So I can go clubbing on a Saturday, and I can get up on a Sunday and go to the gym. But so it's freed me up to do a lot more of it. But I do feel like when you actually do sober clubbing, there's something just extra special about that, because you're with other sober people, and the power of that is unbelievable.
And you're on the same sort of vibe, right? And you're present.
Looking at each other like, oh my God, we're doing this without the need for anything other than just ourselves, and it feels amazing. And I think that is like priceless. It's and that's what we hope to to show people at the House of Happiness. It's like, you know, it's you know, and because it's in the day as well, this doesn't have to be you've got to be sober all the time. It's like, do you know what, if you're a drinker but you want to just be sober for 4 hours of, you know, of a Saturday day, which I'm assuming most people would be anyway, then come along and just try it. Do you know what I mean? And you know, it's easier said than done, because it is kind of hard. It is, you know, you've got to throw yourself in there, but everyone else is doing it, so there's a real non-judgment vibe
inclusive,
in the sober world.
being inclusive.
We're all kind of grown-ups, we've all got boundaries, nobody treads on your toes, everyone's got spatial as anyone, because we're all in the same, you know, we're all sober grown-ups basically.
I love that. It's like you're all sober grown-ups, but you're letting your inner teenagers out to play, you know, or just, you know, playing with your inner child.
Fun.
Pardon? Having fun. Yeah, permission to play, isn't it?
And having fun which is what we should all do. And I don't see why we should not have fun just because we've got children and we're grown up. It's like, actually, fun should be for everybody until they're old. Do you know what I mean? It's like, and
even when they are old,
still have fun. But you know, we tell ourselves these stories, don't we? Well, you're not allowed to do this when you're older. No, because you'll look really silly if you're in a club and you're the eldest one there. It's like, well, actually, no, you won't, and you've just got to choose those clubs wisely. Go to clubs where you know there's other people like you, and then you're all in it together. And it's you know, it's how it should be, frankly. Life is for enjoying, and sobriety is for enjoying. Sober joy, you know, this is what we want to celebrate.
Celebrate 100%. And so tell us when it is, just give us all the details. I'll put it in the show notes, but just
so it is on we did have a date in September, and then the train strikes were announced, so we've had to change our date, which is fine. We are now going out. We're doing it on the 8th of October, Saturday, the 8th of October. And it starts at 12 noon and it finishes at 5 p.m. And it is at a place called Electro Works, which is one of London's longest running clubs. It's just behind Angel Tube Station. It's a brilliant venue. It's so cool. It's as I say, you just walk in, you go upstairs, and it's just kind of, you're just in a darkness of a club, but the bar and the lights are just amazing. They're mind-blowing, actually. They're brilliant.
Fantastic.
So, it's you'll be greeted on the door by lots of our fabulous team. We've got some really cool people involved and everybody's just excited, really. Everybody just wants to have a good boogie and
This sounds awesome. Well, I shall try to be there.
Well, I would love it. Let's see if we can
let's sort that one out.
Yes, definitely.
So just before we go, can you you've said a lot today about, I think, you know, the joy and the reasons to love sober, but what is your reason to love sober today?
I think my predominant reason to love sober is being in control of my life. I think, you know, I mean, obviously you can't control things that happen around you, but being in control of my actions and my choices, I think is what I love the most about being sober. Oh,
I love that. Amen to that. Oh, well, thank you so much, Emma. It's been absolutely brilliant to talk to you today.
You too.
And we'll watch this space. Like I said, we'll put the details on the show notes, and it's just like, the thought of actually all being able to be together as well, you know, post-pandemic, us all, it does feel like I get that sense of find the others, you know? And I just love the fact that you are doing that and providing that forum for people to find each other, to experience joy with each other. I think it is an utterly beautiful thing. So thank you.
Thank you
for for doing it. I think it's wicked. So
it's very exciting.
So if you're immediately concerned about your drinking, do reach out, send up a flare, get in touch, Kate@lovesober.com. Find your fit as well. Like Emma said, you know, it might be Club Soda, it could be Soberistas, it could be the Love Sober community. Get informed, have some fun, reach out, get connected, and we will see you next week for more chat.